The Galactic Council was in a state of turmoil. For centuries, the Council had kept the peace between the most powerful species in the galaxy. Yet now, everything seemed on the edge of falling apart. The long-standing tensions between the different alien races had escalated to a point where the fragile balance of power was close to collapsing. The Xantari, a fierce and militaristic race, had begun to assert their dominance, pushing for war with anyone who disagreed with them. Meanwhile, the Terran, a peaceful and intellectual species, had proposed a solution: diplomacy, not violence. But with the Xantari growing more aggressive by the day, some believed diplomacy had no place in a galaxy dominated by power. In the midst of this chaos, a small, relatively new race had caught the attention of the Council: humans. Humanity was still young in galactic terms, having only recently begun to explore the stars. But even in their short time, humans had proven themselves in ways no one had expected. Their technology, though not as advanced as the older races, was innovative. Their military strength was not to be underestimated, and their ingenuity had earned them respect. The Council had invited humanity's representative to speak at the summit, though many questioned whether they even belonged in such a powerful assembly. A human diplomat, Commander Celine Carter, stood before the Council now, her eyes steady and calm despite the chaos surrounding her. "Humanity is not a force of destruction," she began, her voice clear and confident, "but a force of creation. We don't see problems as insurmountable. We see them as challenges. I am here not to offer military might, but a new way forward, one that uses diplomacy, strategy, and cooperation to achieve peace." Some members of the Council looked skeptical, raising their brows and exchanging glances. The Xantari leader, Garros, sneered. "You think humans can stop us?" he asked with a mocking tone. "You are just children playing at a game too big for you." But Commander Carter did not flinch. Instead, she turned to face the entire room, her gaze unwavering. "Humanity does not shy away from challenges," she said, "and we never back down from a fight we believe is worth it. We are not here to follow in the footsteps of others. We are here to lead a way no one has yet seen. A way that could unite this galaxy, not tear it apart." The room fell silent. Some were still unconvinced, but others began to listen. There was something different about this human. Her words carried weight, and the fire in her eyes ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of those who dared to believe. The Council's attention shifted. They had heard many speeches in their time, but none had quite struck the same chord. Could humanity really bring the galaxy together? Could they truly be the ones to broker peace in this divided time? As the debate raged on, Commander Carter stood firm. Her mission was clear, and she would not leave the Council chamber without a chance for humanity to prove itself. Commander Celine Carter stood before the Galactic Council, her mind sharp and focused. The tension in the room was thick. The alien representatives from various planets were still skeptical about humanity's place in the galaxy. But Carter had come here with a purpose. She wasn't about to let doubt stop her. The Council was divided. The Terran were willing to listen, their calm and patient nature open to the possibility of peace. But the Xantari, with their towering figures and ruthless attitudes, sneered at Carter's words. The Zorvans, a race of intellectuals, whispered amongst themselves, unsure of whether to trust this young human species. "Your words are bold, human," said Garros, the leader of the Xantari, his voice dripping with disdain. "But words alone will not stop us. We are warriors. You are nothing but a fledgling race playing at diplomacy." Carter met his gaze, unflinching. "Words alone may not stop you, Garros, but they can build a path where no path existed before. Humanity has faced wars, enemies far greater than your Xantari, yet we have survived, and we have learned. We are not here to fight wars. We are here to build something better." A murmur spread through the room. Some of the alien representatives looked intrigued, while others appeared more irritated. Carter knew she had a tough road ahead, but she was used to impossible situations. The Terran representative, a tall and serene figure named Reyna, spoke up. Perhaps, Garros, there is some truth in the human's words. We, the Terran, have always believed in peace, but peace, like anything worth having, is not easy. Maybe humanity is the spark we need to light that path. Commander Carter nodded, grateful for Reyna's support. I agree, she said. Humans may not be the strongest military power in the galaxy, but we possess something invaluable: ingenuity. Our creativity is what has allowed us to survive and thrive. We have faced adversity on our own world and come out stronger for it. She paused, letting her words sink in. The room was quiet now, and even Garros had stopped sneering. For the first time, it seemed as though the council members were truly listening. I'm not asking for your trust, Carter continued. I'm asking for your open-mindedness. Give humanity a chance to prove that we are more than just a fledgling species. We have the potential to make a difference. Together, we can forge a future that no one race can achieve alone. The tension in the room was still palpable, but Carter could sense a shift. She had done what she came to do. She had made her case. Now, it was up to the council to decide. For the first time in her life, Carter felt the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. But she didn't let it overwhelm her. Humanity's resolve was strong, and she would stand by it, no matter the outcome. The council was not yet convinced, but Carter had planted a seed, and in the heart of that council, humanity had begun to rise. The days after Commander Carter's speech were filled with uncertainty. The Galactic Council had adjourned in disarray, with the members still divided. The Terran were leaning toward giving humanity a chance, but the Xantari, led by their ruthless commander Garros, were less than convinced. They saw the human species as a minor player, unworthy of the power to influence galactic affairs. It didn't take long for the Xantari to make their move. The Council received an ultimatum, one that would shake the very foundation of peace the galaxy had tried to build. Garros had declared that if the Council did not bend to the Xantari's demands, war would follow. He was relentless in his desire for dominance, convinced that only the strongest would survive in the galaxy. The tension that had been building for weeks finally erupted. The Council was now faced with a terrifying reality. Either they would bow to the Xantari's will, or they would risk everything in a galactic war. The debate raged on, and for the first time, humanity's place in the galaxy seemed even more uncertain. Commander Carter, however, was not one to back down. As the representatives of the various species argued amongst themselves, she stood quietly, observing the chaos. She had seen this kind of struggle before on Earth, where power-hungry individuals often tried to dominate others. The stakes were high, but Carter believed in the human spirit. She knew that humanity's strength didn't lie in brute force. It lay in their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to find solutions where others saw only problems. Standing before the council once again, Carter took a deep breath and spoke, her voice calm but firm. We cannot allow fear to dictate our decisions. The Xantari want us to cower, to bend our knees to their will. But humanity does not know how to cower. We rise in the face of adversity. Her words echoed throughout the chamber. Some of the alien representatives exchanged uncertain looks. They had seen humans face seemingly impossible odds and come through victorious, not by sheer strength, but by their ingenuity. The Terran, ever the diplomats, nodded in agreement. They understood the importance of standing firm, of finding a peaceful resolution, no matter how impossible it seemed. Commander Carter, you speak of peace, Garros growled, his massive form looming over the table. But your species is weak. You cannot stop the might of the Xantari. Carter didn't flinch. No, Garros, we don't need to stop your might. We need to show the galaxy that there is another way, one where cooperation and intellect triumph over violence. The Xantari leader scoffed, clearly not convinced. But Carter continued, her eyes locked on his. I'm not here to fight you, Garros. I'm here to stop bloodshed. I'm here to prove that humanity can help guide this galaxy toward a future of peace. You want war? We want unity. The Council's attention shifted from the Xantari to Carter. There was still skepticism, but her resolve was clear. Humanity was not backing down, and perhaps, just perhaps, they could be the ones to change the course of galactic history. The room fell into an uneasy silence. The choice now rested with the Council. Would they allow humanity to lead, or would they crumble under the weight of the Xantari's threats? Carter knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. After the tense Council meeting, Commander Celine Carter's mission was clear. Humanity had to prove itself. The stakes had never been higher. The Xantari were growing bolder, and the peace the Council had worked so hard to maintain was hanging by a thread. If humanity wanted to play a role in the galaxy's future, it had to act now. Carter had requested a dangerous mission, a direct intervention in the Xantari-controlled sector, where tensions were at their peak. She believed that the best way to prove humanity's worth was through action, not just words. She knew the risks. The Xantari were ruthless, and any mistake could ignite an all-out war. But Carter had never been one to shy away from challenges. Her peacekeeping team, a small but skilled group of humans, boarded their ship, the Resolute. They were headed into uncharted territory, where they would meet a species unlike any they had encountered before. The mission was simple: defuse the situation and prevent an escalation. The problem: no one was sure how to even begin. The journey took days. As they approached the Xantari sector, Carter stood at the front of the ship, gazing out into the vastness of space. The tension was palpable among her crew. They all knew the risks, but there was also a sense of determination. Humanity's first real test in the galaxy had arrived. When they finally arrived, they were met with hostility. A fleet of Xantari warships surrounded their ship, weapons raised. Commander Carter's heart pounded, but she stayed calm. This was what she had trained for. This was humanity's moment to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The Xantari leader, Garros, communicated with them through an open channel. His voice was as cold as ever. "You dare to enter our territory, humans. You are nothing but insects beneath our feet." Carter's voice came through clear and strong. "We are here to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. We don't seek war. We seek peace." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, without warning, Garros gave an order. The Xantari ships fired warning shots, narrowly missing the Resolute. The message was clear: humanity wasn't welcome. Carter's crew scrambled to keep their ship steady. But Carter remained calm. She issued orders, directing the crew to deploy their most advanced technology, an electromagnetic pulse device that would temporarily disable the Xantari weapons without causing permanent harm. It was a bold move, one that could be seen as an act of aggression. But Carter knew it was their only option. As the pulse went out, the Xantari ships lost power, their weapons now useless. The Resolute was safe for now. Garros's voice returned, furious. "You think this is a victory, human? You have only delayed the inevitable." Carter responded with unwavering confidence. "The inevitable can be avoided, Garros. We're not here to fight. We're here to find a solution, if you'll let us." The Xantari leader was silent again, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Carter had done it. She had prevented violence with nothing more than intelligence and calm. Her crew had shown that humanity was more than capable of standing firm in the face of danger without resorting to bloodshed. As the Xantari ships slowly powered back up, Carter knew that the hard part was still ahead. The first step had been taken, but the true challenge was yet to come. The Resolute had survived, and so had the mission. But in the hearts of the Galactic Council, humanity had just earned its first victory. The victory felt hollow. The Resolute and its crew had successfully avoided a war with the Xantari, but Commander Celine Carter knew that the true challenge was yet to come. Garros, the leader of the Xantari, had only been momentarily halted. Despite her best efforts, he had not truly been persuaded. His hatred for humanity ran deep, and Carter feared that the calm they had achieved was just a temporary pause before a far worse conflict. A week passed without incident, but it was a week filled with unease. The Council, impressed by humanity's display of creativity and resilience, began to discuss the possibility of deeper cooperation with humanity. But behind closed doors, the Xantari were planning their next move. They weren't willing to let humanity, or any other race, stand in their way for long. Then, without warning, the Resolute received a transmission from Garrus. The message was brief, almost too calm, with a sense of finality. "We are willing to negotiate," Garrus said, his voice cool. "Meet me on the neutral planet of Kryn. We'll discuss terms of your surrender." The word struck Carter like a punch to the gut. A surrender? Was this a trick? She didn't trust Garrus, not for a second. But the idea of meeting on neutral ground, away from the influence of the Galactic Council, seemed too tempting for her to ignore. If she could somehow convince Garrus to listen, there might be a chance for peace. But if he had any ulterior motives, they could all be walking into a trap. Against her better judgment, Carter agreed to the meeting. She prepared her crew, issuing strict orders. They would go to Kryn, but they would not go unprepared. The Resolute would carry their most advanced weapons, ready for anything. When they landed on Kryn, the air felt thick with tension. The planet was neutral territory, a place where the various races of the galaxy could come together without the threat of violence. The peaceful atmosphere did little to ease the knot in Carter's stomach. She knew the Xantari had a reputation for trickery, and Garrus had never been one to play fair. They were escorted to a large open chamber where Garrus awaited them, flanked by his top officers. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Welcome, Commander Carter," Garrus said, his voice smooth and cold. "I trust you've come to your senses." Carter stood firm, refusing to show any fear. "We're here to talk, Garrus. We're here to stop this madness before it's too late." The Xantari leader's smile faded, and without warning, his officers lunged at Carter and her crew, capturing them in a swift and brutal ambush. The entire meeting had been a ruse, an elaborate trap designed to lure them into a vulnerable position. The Xantari had never intended to negotiate. This was about eliminating humanity before they could gain too much power. Carter's heart raced, but she kept her cool. The situation was dire, but she wasn't about to give up. Humanity had survived worse. She had to think quickly. There was no room for error. "Take them to the cells," Garrus ordered, his voice filled with triumph. As Carter was dragged away, she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her fear. She had been betrayed, but she wasn't done yet. The Xantari had underestimated humanity's resolve, and that was a mistake they would soon regret. Carter sat in the cold, dark cell, her hands bound by energy cuffs. Her mind raced as she processed what had just happened. The Xantari had betrayed her and her crew, luring them into a trap on the neutral planet of Kryn. The hope of peace, of diplomacy, seemed like a distant dream now. The Xantari didn't want peace. They wanted total control, and humanity's role in the galaxy was no longer a question of cooperation. It was a question of survival. As the hours passed, Carter's thoughts turned to her crew. They were in the same situation as her, held captive by the Xantari's ruthless military. But she wasn't ready to give up. She had learned long ago that humans were never defeated until they gave up, and she wasn't about to let that happen. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, word spread quickly of the Xantari's betrayal. The representatives from the various races were shocked. They had hoped that humanity's diplomacy could help end the growing tensions in the galaxy, but now it seemed as though the Xantari would stop at nothing to maintain their power. The council convened in an emergency session. As the debate raged on, the Tyrann spoke first. The Xantari have shown their true colors. They care only for war and domination. We cannot allow them to continue their tyranny. But what of humanity? They risked everything to try and prevent this. They were the ones who stood up for peace. Reyna, the Tyrann representative, looked to the other members of the council, her voice steady, but filled with urgency. "We have no choice now but to act. We cannot allow this betrayal to go unanswered. The Zorvans, the intellectual race, were silent at first. Their minds were logical, cautious. But even they couldn't ignore the gravity of the situation. A representative finally spoke up. We cannot allow the Xantari to control the galaxy. If humanity is the key to defeating them, then we must stand with them. We must offer them our support, not only to free their people, but to show the galaxy that unity is possible. Across the room, Garros's smug face appeared on a holographic screen, his arrogance apparent even through the transmission. "You are all fools," he sneered. "Your precious humanity is now in our hands. They will never be able to stop us." Commander Carter, still in the cell, had no way of knowing what was unfolding in the council chambers, but she felt a shift in the air, a sudden understanding that humanity was no longer alone. The council had finally recognized the importance of their role in the galaxy. Inside the cell, Carter wasn't sitting idle. Using every ounce of ingenuity humanity was known for, she carefully studied her restraints. The energy cuffs were advanced, but not invincible. She knew that if she could just get free, she might be able to contact her crew and the outside world. The stakes were higher than ever, but Carter had faced impossible odds before, and she was ready to face them again. As the council deliberated, Carter quietly worked to escape. Her heart raced, but she remained focused. Her faith in humanity's resilience burned stronger than ever. The Xantari had made a grave mistake. The galaxy would see that humanity could rise against any challenge, no matter how great. Commander Celine Carter's fingers trembled as she finally succeeded in freeing herself from the energy cuffs. The process had been slow and painstaking, but years of military training and the survival instinct that had been ingrained in her from a young age had paid off. Now the small cell she had been imprisoned in seemed like a distant, fading memory. Carter moved swiftly, her mind focused on her next steps. She knew she couldn't waste any more time. Her crew was still trapped, and the Xantari had no intention of releasing them without a fight. But Carter had an advantage now. Humanity's most powerful weapon wasn't brute force. It was their ability to adapt, to think on their feet, and to solve problems when others saw only obstacles. Her first task was to find her crew. She slipped through the hallways of the Xantari facility, using the shadows to her advantage. The facility was heavily guarded, but Carter had always been good at sneaking around. She had learned long ago that being seen often meant being defeated. As she approached the area where the other prisoners were being held, she paused, listening carefully. The sounds of Xantari guards talking and walking echoed through the corridors. Carter waited, her heart beating steadily, until the guards passed. With a quick motion, she ducked into the holding area. Her crew was there, looking worse for wear but alive. They all looked up in surprise as she silently unlocked their cells. One by one, they stepped out, looking both relieved and cautious. Carter quickly gave them their orders, her voice low but firm. "We need to get to the Resolute," she said. "Now, no time to waste." The crew nodded, ready to follow her lead. They had been trained for situations like this, but even they had never imagined such a high-stakes rescue mission. Still, they trusted Carter. They knew she would find a way out. As they made their way back to the hangar, the group moved with quiet determination. Every corner they turned, every guard they avoided, was another step closer to freedom. But the Xantari wouldn't let them escape without a fight. The moment they reached the hangar, the alarms blared. Guards rushed toward them, weapons drawn. "Go!" Carter shouted to her crew. "Get to the ship. I'll hold them off." The crew hesitated for a moment, but Carter's command was clear. They had to escape. With a few quick nods, they sprinted toward the waiting ship. Carter turned to face the incoming guards, drawing her weapon. Her heart pounded, but she remained calm. This wasn't her first fight, and it wouldn't be her last. As the Xantari charged at her, Carter fired, taking down one guard, then another. She moved quickly, efficiently, using her surroundings to her advantage. The Xantari were strong, but Carter was determined. Humanity wasn't just another race to be conquered. They were survivors. She fought with everything she had, knowing that her crew's escape depended on it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Carter reached the Resolute and boarded with her crew. The Xanteri had underestimated humanity, and now it was time for them to learn just how wrong they were. As the Resolute lifted off the ground and blasted into space, Carter felt a rush of relief. They had done it, but she knew this was just the beginning. The Xanteri were still out there, and the galaxy wasn't going to give up its peace so easily. But now, humanity had proven their worth. They had fought, and they had won. And with that, the rise of humanity had only just begun. The Resolute flew through space, its engines humming steadily as it left the Xanteri facility far behind. Commander Celine Carter stood at the bridge, looking out into the endless expanse. The victory they had won was significant, but the real challenge was far from over. The Galactic Council was still divided, and humanity's place in the galaxy had yet to be solidified. After their daring escape, Carter knew it was time for the Council to decide. Would they stand with humanity, or would they turn their backs? As the ship neared the neutral space station, where the Galactic Council was meeting, Carter gathered her thoughts. The stakes had never been higher. The Xanteri had already made it clear that they would not stop until they had crushed humanity, and other races in the Council still viewed humans with skepticism. But the events on Krynn, the way Carter's crew had fought and survived, had sparked something in the galaxy. Humanity's resolve, creativity, and unbreakable spirit were undeniable. Now, it was time to see if the galaxy would recognize that. The council session was called to order. The representatives from the various races filed into their seats, murmuring among themselves. The room was filled with an air of uncertainty, but there was also something else: hope. For the first time, many in the room believed that the galaxy could change. They believed that humanity, with its unique abilities, might just be the answer to the crisis they had been facing for so long. Carter took her place at the front of the room, her expression calm, but her mind was racing. She knew what was at stake. She had come this far, and now she would have to convince the council that humanity was not just a player in this game. They were the key to its resolution. The debate began. The Terran were the first to speak, their voice soft but strong. Reyna, their representative, stood and addressed the room. "We have seen what humanity is capable of, not just in battle, but in their willingness to build, to create, and to unite. They have proven that they are not just a race of destruction, but one of hope." The Zorvans agreed, their representative speaking next. The Xanteri thought they could break humanity's spirit, but what they have shown us is something far more powerful. It is their ability to survive, adapt, and think differently that makes them valuable. Then, it was the Xanteri's turn. Garros appeared on the holographic screen, his voice filled with disdain. "The humans are nothing more than a distraction. They do not have the strength to rule this galaxy. They only pose a threat to the order we have established. If you let them gain more power, you will regret it." Carter stood tall, ready for her moment. She looked at the council, her voice steady as she spoke. "We are not here to rule. We are here to help. Humanity has faced its own trials, but we have always chosen the path of unity and cooperation. We are ready to stand with you, not against you. We ask for the opportunity to prove that we can be the peacekeepers this galaxy needs." The room was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, the representatives began to nod. The vote was called. As the final votes were counted, Carter held her breath. The tension in the room was unbearable. The council members cast their ballots, and when the results were revealed, it was clear. Humanity had won. The vote was narrow, but humanity had earned a place in the Galactic Council. Carter exhaled, a sense of relief washing over her. Humanity had made its mark. The galaxy had taken its first step toward unity, and humanity was at the center of it all. For Commander Carter, this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead would be many. But one thing was certain: humanity would rise. They had earned their place, And now, they would shape the future. The Galactic Council had finally voted, and humanity had earned its place among the stars. The tension that had filled Commander Celine Carter's chest for so long had slowly begun to ease, replaced by a quiet sense of triumph. She stood at the window of the Resolute, watching the stars pass by as the ship made its way back to Earth. Their victory was significant, but it was just the beginning. Humanity had been given a seat at the table, but the real work was about to begin. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Humanity, once seen as a small and insignificant race, had proven its worth. The vote in the Galactic Council was a turning point, not only for humanity but for all the species that had gathered there. The victory signified something much bigger than just political power. It was a symbol of hope. A hope that peace could be achieved, even in a galaxy torn apart by war and distrust. Back on Earth, the celebration was immense. News channels buzzed with excitement, and people all over the world watched with pride as their representatives in the Galactic Council made their mark. It was a moment that every human, no matter their background or beliefs, could take pride in. Humanity was no longer just a footnote in the history of the galaxy. They were active participants in shaping its future. Yet, Carter knew the hard work had only just begun. As the Resolute continued its journey back to Earth, she reflected on the challenges ahead. The Xanteri had been defeated for now, but their thirst for power hadn't disappeared. Other races, like the Vornak and the Greys, would test humanity's resolve. The galaxy was still full of threats, and humanity would have to prove time and time again that they were worthy of the trust placed in them. One of the first tasks Carter would face upon returning was helping to organize the new galactic peacekeeping force. The Council had agreed to form an interspecies team, one that would include humans, Terran, Zorvans, and others, to maintain peace across the galaxy. The team would need skilled diplomats, soldiers, and negotiators, and Carter knew that humanity could provide all of those. She had already started brainstorming ideas for training programs and recruitment, hoping to prepare a new generation for the challenges that lay ahead. But it wasn't just about preparing for war. Carter also focused on building bridges between the different races. She had seen firsthand how the Xanteri's aggressive tactics had fueled fear and distrust. The key to peace, she believed, was in cooperation. Humanity's ability to innovate and adapt had given them a unique perspective on problem-solving. They could offer solutions that no one else could see, and that was what made them indispensable in the galaxy. The message she wanted to send was clear. Humanity didn't just want to survive in the galaxy. They wanted to help shape it. They were not just conquerors or soldiers. They were builders, creators, and dreamers. They would not be defined by their past struggles, but by their capacity to rise above them. As Carter sat back in her seat, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport, she allowed herself a moment of peace. It had been a long journey, but humanity had arrived. The galaxy had changed, and in its heart, humanity now had a place. For Carter, this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, but it was theirs to explore. And together, they would make it better. The journey home had been long, but the Resolute finally made its way back to Earth, carrying with it the weight of humanity's greatest achievement. Commander Celine Carter stood once more at the ship's window, watching as Earth grew larger in the distance. It was impossible to ignore the emotions that stirred inside her. Pride, hope, a sense of accomplishment that humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. As the ship docked at the Earth space station, Carter and her crew were greeted with cheers and applause. News of their victory had already spread across the world. The celebrations were grand, but Carter knew the true test of their success lay ahead. The Council had accepted humanity into its ranks, but the real challenge was proving that they were worthy of the trust placed in them. Carter's first task upon returning was to address the people. She stood before a massive crowd in a great hall, the eyes of the world upon her. For once, she was not speaking to the Council or other alien species. This was her moment to speak to humanity, to remind them of what they had accomplished together. Today, we stand as equals in the eyes of the galaxy, She began, her voice steady. But this is only the beginning. The road ahead is not easy. There will be challenges, and there will be struggles. But we have proven that humanity is capable of more than just survival. We are capable of shaping the future. The crowd erupted in applause. Carter could see the pride in their faces, hear the hope in their cheers. They had fought for this, not just as individuals, but as a species. The decision of the Galactic Council was not just a political victory. It was the promise of something greater. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. Over the next few months, Earth began to see the impact of humanity's newfound position. Diplomats and representatives were sent to different planets, forging relationships and alliances with alien races. The peaceful approach humanity had championed was gaining traction. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to change. Tensions that had once seemed insurmountable were slowly being replaced with cooperation. Commander Carter's leadership was celebrated, but she remained humble. She knew that no single person could change the fate of an entire galaxy. It was humanity, working together, that had made this possible. She had led her people to victory, but it was the collective strength of humanity that had won the day. The peacekeeping force, made up of humans and other alien races, began to take shape. Carter was instrumental in its creation, helping to train diplomats, soldiers, and negotiators from all across the galaxy. The human touch was felt in every aspect of the new organization, from strategic planning to conflict resolution. Yet Carter never lost sight of the bigger picture. She knew that humanity's role in the galaxy wasn't just about military might or diplomacy. It was about building a future where all species could live in harmony. She worked tirelessly to ensure that the human legacy would be one of peace, cooperation, and progress. As she stood on the balcony of her home one evening, looking out at the stars, Carter reflected on the journey. They had started as a small, vulnerable species on the edge of the galaxy, and now they were shaping its future. Humanity had earned its place, not through strength or war, but through unity, resilience, and hope. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to explore its possibilities. Carter smiled, knowing that the future was bright. And as she looked up at the stars, she understood that this was only the beginning of humanity's incredible legacy. The universe was theirs to shape.